thank you, the organizer, and congratulate them for having so far a wonderful and successful event. And I would like to thank the organizers and the participants for attending this session, which is about Islamic DeFi, a very new trend, and we are going to have some understanding around what is Islamic decentralized finance, and definitely we will explore some uncharted territories. So let me just proceed further. Let me just give you a brief background of Sharia first, because I believe that some of the participants are coming from a non-Sharia or non-Islamic background. So it would be beneficial for them to understand that how Sharia, the Islamic law, and finance connect with each other. So first of all, we need to understand that Islam is actually a complete code of life. So Islamic teachings guide human beings in all walks of life, including finance and technology. So, and Sharia, the Islamic law, provides a comprehensive set of principles and rulings for contracts and financial transactions. And if you look at the main approach of Sharia, then we can easily understand that Sharia actually gives us a freedom to transact with each other, to form our contracts, and actually put terms and conditions according to our needs and also our requirements. But there is actually a sector, or you can call it a major, some of the, there are some guidelines from the Sharia perspective, which actually prohibits certain elements in a contract or a financial transaction. So as long as you can avoid those prohibited elements, you are good to go. And you can actually form any type of contract, you can do any dealing or financial transaction, as long as your financial transaction or the contract does not breach any Sharia ruling, or does not fall under the prohibited elements or space. So that is why, if you look at the Sharia scholars and Islamic jurists of past, they have come up with some Islamic legal maxims which were very very beneficial for us to understand today's presentation. For example, like the approach of Sharia, I have just picked up 3 legal maxims over here, but of course there are so many legal maxims for specific cases, for general cases, and actually for all types of situation. But I just picked up a few of them to show that how Sharia gives you general rulings and principles, and which can guide us even in the technology space, even in the financial space. And I mean, even if you go to a super modern era, then even then those principles and teachings will be very valid and applicable. For example, the basic principle about matters is permissibility until evidence indicates that it is forbidden. So in Arabic, the illegal maxim is al-aslu fil ashya'i al-ibaha hatta yadulla dalil ala tahrim. So what does this principle mean is that, like, human beings are free to actually have any kind of transaction, have any kind of dealing or a financial transaction, unless there is a textual evidence provided in the main sources of Sharia, either primary or secondary sources, which are actually prohibiting that specific transaction for a specific reason. And then we have another legal maxim, which is al-hukmu ala shay far'un an tasawwurihi. So this is also very important for Islamic finance or Islamic fintech or cryptocurrencies or blockchain projects. Why? Because it tells this second principle tells us that the Sharia ruling has to be based on a complete and comprehensive, correct understanding of a thing or of a matter. So first you have to first understand that what is it, and only then you will be able to apply Sharia rulings, whether it is halal or permissible, or it is haram, non-permissible. And the third Islamic legal maxim is actually the principle in contracts and conditions, that is permissibility and validity. Again, I am emphasizing on my previous statement that Sharia actually gives you a lot of freedom, and only those elements which are prohibited are actually harmful not only to the parties of a contract but also to the whole society. So that is basically Sharia is standing. So, but there is a big question that what are those major prohibitions which have to be avoided in a financial transaction? So there are so many, but the major ones are actually these three. So the first and foremost, the major prohibition is actually riba. Now, some people translate it into this terminology of riba, which has been used in the sources of Sharia, which are Quran and Sunnah, as interest and usury. But I believe that riba is a very wider term, and although interest and usury are a subset of this terminology or this concept, but this concept is actually actually goes beyond interest and usury only. So let us see what is the definition of riba. So any unjustified compensation is stipulated in a transaction or compensation without any counter value is called riba. So now we understand that that is basically like any unjustified compensation, or if there is any compensation without any counter value is called riba. And then this riba can occur in not only in loan transactions, but also in sales transaction. For example, if someone sells doing a barter system, in a barter system, if someone is selling dates, 1 kg of dates of a specific quality, so he cannot actually sell those dates for a inferior quality dates in larger quantity. So it cannot be like 1 kg of superior quality dates against 2 kg of lower quality dates. Why? It's because there is again a possibility that riba might occur in this transaction. So then Sharia tells us that if you want to trade 1 kg of dates, you have to transact it with or exchange it with 1 kg of dates. But if you are considering the higher quality and lower quality of dates on different sides, then what you need to do is like first you have to sell your higher quality dates for money, and then with that money you can buy lower quality of dates in a larger quantity. So that's how basically Sharia tells that how transaction has to be done. A transaction has to be done and how you can avoid riba or interest. And then second point is actually gharar. So gharar is refers to excessive uncertainty and regarding the fundamental components of a contract or a transaction, because we need to understand that you cannot completely avoid uncertainty from any transaction because future is not known and future is uncertain. And because of that, I mean, there has to be certain amount of gharar or uncertainty should be accepted in a transaction. So that is basically called gharar yasir, which is minor gharar. But excessive gharar cannot be tolerable and cannot be permissible. So if I give you an example, like for example, non-existence or missing information about the main pillars of a contract triggers the issue of gharar. If I give you an example that if let's suppose that I want to sell Ethereum. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, so but I do not possess it at the moment. So what I am asking for a potential buyer that can you please pay me so that like I will deliver you, pay me in US dollar or BTC, Bitcoin, and I will deliver to you Ethereum afterwards. So this cannot be done. If I am selling as a seller, I have to possess Ethereum in my wallet first before I can proceed to sell those Ethereum to another buyer. So that is basically that is basically because here I do not possess the subject matter of the contract. That's why there is gharar in this contract, and that's why it is not permissible. And then we have another concept, which is maisir or qimar. These are two Arabic words, and these Arabic terminologies, which are also used in Quran and Sunnah, refer to gambling-like transaction. Now, what is gambling-like transactions? Is actually a transaction that involves a zero-sum game. Zero-sum game means like that you cannot actually have a win-win situation there. So both parties cannot win. One has to lose so that the other party will win. So that is basically a zero-sum game. So overall, there is no benefit of that transaction at a larger scale, because if the benefit or a win of a party depends on the loss of another party. And then again, the second component of gambling is a game of chance, which means that the outcome of the transaction should not depend on a chance. For example, if I go to Professor Zakaria and say that I would like to actually sell you some Ethereum, but the price of that Ethereum will depend on tomorrow's market. So that like whether the prices are going down, so then I will sell you these Ethereums at this price. And if they are going up, then I will sell you these Ethereums at a different price. So this cannot be done. Because why? Because my prices are actually depending on tomorrow's events, which are not known to me or to Professor Zakaria, and because of that, it's a game of chance. So in that sense, this transaction will have not only maisir but also gharar, and because of that, it will be invalid. So a famous example of maisir or gambling-like transactions are actually financial derivatives, which are very famous in the traditional Islamic finance, traditional financial sphere also, and also in crypto. So we need to avoid them so that we can basically avoid maisir and qimar. Now, let me just give you a very brief overlook of how Islamic finance industry look today. How does it look? So if you look at the global Islamic finance industry, we have seen a good growth until 2019, because in this year, after that, like in 2020 and now in 2021, what we have seen is the overall global economic slowdown due to Corona and COVID-19. But anyway, regardless of that, I will be talking about it in my later slides. Let me just tell you that global Islamic finance industry actually consists of funds, takaful. Takaful is Islamic insurance, sukuk are Islamic bonds, and banking assets. So you can see a composition of each asset class also in these bars. And then if you look at the top 10 Islamic finance countries or jurisdictions according to Islamic finance assets, then we can see that like Iran is actually number one with almost $700 billion in industry or Islamic financial assets. And then Saudi Arabia comes second with $630 billion, almost like that, $630 billion Islamic financial assets, and so on and so forth. So these are actually like Turkey, Bahrain, UAE, Malaysia, Indonesia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bangladesh are actually the top 10 countries in the world right now according to Islamic financial asset. But what happened is in 2020 and in what is happening now in 2021 is that you can see that COVID impact is also huge on all the regions where Islamic finance is flourishing. For example, Iran, Malaysia, GCC, and Turkey. But although there is a mild recovery in 2021, but we will have to see a full recovery at the moment, and we will have to wait for that. And then what we have seen is that like from the growth rate of 13.9 CAGR, what we have seen is that now financial assets are growing by 5.5% only in 2020 and 2021. So we can foresee that in 2024 the growth rate will be 7.2% only. But with that, Islamic finance industry will reach to a valuation of almost $3.7 trillion by 2024. Now, with that, like we have talked about a little bit of what Sharia is and how Sharia has actually built how Sharia acted as a backbone of Islamic finance. And then we have seen that in 2024, it is expected that this Islamic finance industry is going to be $3.7 trillion industry. So now we can, with that background, we can now would like to shift our focus on understanding DeFi. That what is DeFi, and is the future? Is it the future of conventional finance? And is it like a decentralization phenomena is going to be here? So what is DeFi? DeFi stands for decentralized finance, and actually it is a movement that promotes the use of decentralized networks like blockchain and open source softwares like decentralized application, smart contracts, to create multiple types of financial services and products. Later on, I will show you that what type of financial services and products we have in the DeFi space. But right now, as a concept, the idea is, as a concept, DeFi, the main idea of DeFi is to develop and operate financial decentralized application on top of a transparent and trustless framework. Before me, you have already attended a presentation on blockchain, where it has been mentioned that blockchain is more transparent and gives you more trust. So decentralized application for finance can be run on this transparent and trustless framework. So we will see that not only that blockchain will provide trust and transparency, full traceability, but also we will see that like it will also reduce the cost and remove the intermediaries if it is being used efficiently and with care. So then people can ask that, okay, what is the difference between DeFi and CeFi? CeFi is actually centralized finance, and then DeFi is the opposite of it, which is decentralized finance. So if you look at it, there are some differences there. There are some pros and cons according to those differences as well. But just to have a very brief idea about it, I'm gonna just point out few of the differences and the pros and cons. So first of all, in DeFi space, exchanges are decentralized. They are facilitated by a system of smart contracts hosted on a protocol. And in the centralized exchange, oppositely, they receive funds from the users to manage them within an internal account. So there you have a central authority, which is basically managing your account. And then custody, according to the, from this perspective, we see that like people manage their own funds without the need of a central system. On the other hand, centralized finance holds user funds to perform trading, lending, staking, and all other activities on their behalf. And then private keys, the ownership of the private keys remains with the users, with the owners of those private keys in a DeFi system. In a centralized finance system, users do not have control on their own private keys. So they have to give up their the ownership of the private keys to a central authority. And then for the permission, DeFi is a completely permissionless system where KYC is not needed. But in a CeFi space, we see that users require to complete KYC to access services. Similarly, trust from the trust in a DeFi system, you have trust in the smart contract, but in a CeFi system, you have trust in the centralized authority or system through which financial activities are completed. And again, a drawback of DeFi is that accountability is actually rests with the none, because dApps are not accountable for security breaches or loss of funds. But in a centralized system, you have an authority or corporation which has which is accountable for security breaches and loss of funds. If you look at the current market cap, these are basically the figures which are, I have just picked them up today. So they are quite updated. So if you look at the DeFi crypto market cap right now, it is $102 billion. And if you look at the current CeFi market cap is almost $1.9 trillion, because DeFi is basically a phenomenon which has just started, while CeFi phenomena in the blockchain and crypto space has been there for a longer time. So just to give you an idea, you can see that the ecosystem, how it is growing.
Sorry, can I just ask Mr. Abdul Hamid to mute yourself, please? Abdul Hamid?
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, Dr. Farrukh, please go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So then in the categories, if you look at it, so like in this slide, what I have shown you is that there are different categories of DeFi projects, and as opposed to them, you can see a number. So this number actually tells you how many projects are there under this category. So if you look at alternative savings, we have 3 projects under it. And then if you look at decentralized exchanges, for example, so we see that like there are 36 projects under this category. And if you look at lending and borrowing category, we have 11 projects sparked there. So, and so on and so forth. So that's how we are actually seeing the growth of DeFi projects. And then current snapshot or DeFi market, if you look at it, most of the DeFi projects are based on Ethereum. So that's why Ethereum has been used in almost like 41% of DeFi projects. And then if you look at the trading volume of last 24 hours, because again, I said this is a very recent figure. So it is actually for today. And then it was trading volume was $14 billion. And DeFi dominance, if you look at it, I mean, how big is the sector of DeFi in the whole crypto space? Then it is 5.2%, but it is going with a very rapid pace. And then total value locked value TVL is actually $81 billion at the moment. Some of the projects which I wanted to show you are these. Basically, these are the top 9 DeFi projects, and their volumes, 24 hours volume, circulation supply, market cap is already given there. So you can see that Uniswap and Chainlink are actually the leading DeFi tokens or projects at the moment. And then if you look at in the last 90 days market cap of DeFi, it has grown from almost from 300 million $30 billion to almost 100 and more than $100 billion. So that is basically only a 90 days market cap of DeFi. So it is increasing at a very rapid pace, that within 90 days from $30 billion, it has reached to more than $100 billion. And then what is Islamic DeFi now? Because the way I see it, we have already seen that due to COVID and economic slowdown, Islamic financial industry has become a sort of stagnant. So here we would like to see that whether Islamic DeFi can open opportunities for the Islamic financial industry or not. But before that, we need to ask ourselves that what is Islamic DeFi? So it refers to Sharia compliant decentralized financial products and services. So this is very, very general. But then if you go deep into it, then you will understand that Sharia compliance, Sharia governance framework plays a very vital role in transforming those decentralized DeFi products and services. So in a larger picture, if you look at it, then Islamic DeFi is a complete ecosystem of DeFi products, tools, and processes, which are governed by the Islamic principles and rulings. So that's how we understand them. And there are two main approaches towards Islamic DeFi at the moment. First of all is Sharia compliance of the existing projects. For example, I have shown you a list of top DeFi projects. So what we can do is actually we can see that whether which project among those projects are Sharia compliant and which are not. So we can do the Sharia screening and Sharia compliance of the existing projects. And number two is like creating and developing new Sharia compliant projects which are relevant to DeFi space. So these are the main two approaches towards Islamic DeFi. And there is a, yes.
There's only 1 more minute.
Okay, so I will
just next speaker.
Okay, perfect. So what I am saying is that major components, if you look at them, so it's DeFi Takaful, Islamic staking, and Islamic finance asset tokenization. So these are basically the major components of Islamic DeFi, where you have halal marketplaces like NFTs, marketplaces for non-fungible tokens, NFTs. So we can do that. We can also look into it and make them Sharia compliant. And there are a lot of opportunities because right now we see that there are no DeFi projects at the moment in the market which are Islamic or Sharia compliant. But of course, like if you look at the existing one, you will definitely find some of them which are Islamic or Sharia compliant. So, but there is a huge opportunity because we can see that like Islamic finance is almost like $2.88 trillion industry, and crypto is also like almost $2 trillion industry. So with that, I think that I just wanted to show you a case study, a small one, where what Marhaba DeFi is doing is actually they are trying to create a crypto wallet for Sharia, only Sharia compliant assets and for the Sharia compliant transactions only and for businesses. And then they will later on introduce staking on Mudaraba basis and swapping of Sharia compliant assets on either on Murabaha or Musawama. And then these are basically the Islamic contracts which can be used for these mechanisms of DeFi. And then liquidity pools can be based on Mudaraba, Zakat, and Islamic charity can be based on decentralized finance as well. So with that, actually, I just closed my presentation, and I hope that I have ended my presentation on time. If you have any question, or any comment or any feedback, please contact me with my email. If you have a question now, and if the moderator allows, we can have question and answer also. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jazakallah khair, Mr. Farrukh. Dr. Farrukh, it's been a pleasure having you. Now, I'm told by the organizers that there's no more time left. So you're still here online. So for people who have comments or questions, please just direct them to him directly, okay, through the chat. And I thank you again, and I hand over now to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Farrukh. Thank you very much, Dr. Zakaria Al-Anwar, and for everybody who was present today. It was a great presentation, and inshallah, we will be meeting again. Thank you for our guest, Farrukh Habib. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Jazakallah khair.
Yes. We meet tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.